say, and just to make it very complete and clear. Okay? You see, why we undertake this 7-limb practice, we're trying to accumulate merit and purify negativities. So even on a very worldly level, to have success, we need merit, we need positive karma. Yeah. Now, when Atisha was saying, when he showed up and he was asked to give these vows of engaging Bodhicitta, he said, you won't attain it because your offerings are low, right? It's not that Atisha then, you know, I don't know, like he wanted chocolate or biscuits or something, and he's like, no, you guys aren't worthy because you didn't make offerings enough. It's not like that. But, you see, cause and effect. You just need an extraordinary store of merit to even hear the word Bodhicitta, right? To even hear the word Bodhicitta, you need so much merit. So these practices are done so that we can bring with us the kind of necessary conditions so that we can have success in first taking and then maintaining the Bodhisattva vows. Okay? So, you can see here in these very beautiful stanzas by Shantideva that, you know, we can use our imagination. We should use our imagination, right? So normally we think offering, and then it's like, okay, water bowls, a stick of incense, a candle, something like this, right? What do you say, Atisha? You know? Bathing houses with pearls and jewels, and then, you know, giving the bath, and then anointing with all these cloths. Very nice, right? So, use your imagination, okay? Don't be stuck with, you know, whatever is normally done, okay? So now next you see the limb of confession, okay? So it is said that even though we have committed sort of negative actions in the past, those negative actions in general are the cause for suffering results in the future. Right? But you see, just like a seed, here again, the seed analogy, okay? The seed, before it gives rise to a sprout, if it's destroyed, it won't give rise to the sprout. Although the seed itself has the potential to give rise to a sprout. But in order for it to arise as a sprout, it needs to meet with other conditions, and before it meets those other conditions, it can be destroyed. So similarly, although our negative actions are the causes for suffering results in the future, if we, let's say, have done a negative action today, that ripening result we haven't experienced yet, so in that interim period, it can be purified. How? Well, in general, this limb of confession, right? But really, to elaborate on it more, it's the so-called 4 opponent powers. Okay? 4 opponent powers, if they are practiced well and together and completely, then even the very heavy negative karmas that we've accumulated, they don't have to be experienced at all. Okay? Now, there is talk in the text that there'll be 3 levels of purification. One is, you won't have to experience any result in the future. But even if you do have to experience some result, yeah, you can also experience it, let's say, right, instead of being reborn in the lower realms for 1,000,000 years, you could be reborn there for 1,000 years. Okay. Not bad. Then another way it can be purified is, rather than being reborn in the lower realms for 1,000,000 years, you could experience a great sickness in this life. So again, what? No, that still is in the grand scheme of things a net benefit. Like it is said in the traditional text. If someone is sentenced to death, right, and then the judge says, okay, we won't kill you, but, since you stole, we're going to chop off your hand. I don't think anyone would say, oh, no. Right? Right? So now, of course, the best thing, of course, is not to engage in negative action in the first place. But it's difficult. So when we have, then our only option is to purify as much as we can. Okay? And so that is through the 4-point powers. Now, the 4-point powers to remember, right? There's the 4 R's. They say the 4 R's. Regret, refuge, remedy, and resolve. So refuge here, where were we? 26. Where were we doing the layout? Huh? Stanza 26. I seek refuge in all the Buddhas. Until I possess the essence of awakening, I seek refuge in Dharma and the assembly of Bodhisattvas. Okay. So what is refuge? Refuge in a worldly sense is, when it rains, you see a structure that has a roof, you don't want to get wet, you go inside. So there is some situation, that you don't want to experience, let's say getting wet. You see something that has the ability to protect you from that type of suffering, and then you seek refuge in it, right? So, same thing. The Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, right? The Buddha, the Dharma is the teachings, the Sangha is the community of spiritual aspirants, you could say, just as a rough definition. So those 3 are the objects of refuge. What are we trying to have refuge from? So here, it can be either suffering of, lower realms of existence, the suffering of samsara in general, or you could call it in one way suffering, but the fact that we're not enlightened, the fact that we're not able to work perfectly for the benefit of sentient beings. Those 3 are the so-called fears, right? They say in order to take refuge you need 2 causes, fear and faith. Fear, in this case, just think of it more as the seeing something undesirable that you don't want to experience. Faith means, a kind of conviction that that object of refuge has the ability to protect you from that fear. So the 3 jewels of refuge have the ability to protect us from those 3 levels of suffering. Right? Why? Well, on the very, and let me just say, see, that those 3 levels of suffering are basically, we talked about yesterday, the 3 capable beings, their main goals for practice, either avoiding a lower rebirth in the next life, avoiding the sufferings of samsara, and, well, attaining enlightenment, right? Those are the three goals of the three capable beings. Yes? This review, yeah? So those three levels, all of them can go to refuge to the Buddha. And the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is a suitable source of refuge for people in the small scope, or the lower capable being, because the Buddha teaches what virtue and non-virtue is, and how to practice restraint from non-virtue, and how to engage in virtue, right? According to the middle capable being, right, they want protection from the faults of samsara in general. Okay, the Buddha is suitable refuge for that because the Buddha teaches the precise cause of samsara and how to free yourself from that. And then for the person who wants enlightenment, right, full enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, the Buddha teaches, Bodhicitta, the six perfections, the causes that will lead to enlightenment. Okay? So that's refuge in general. But in this context, when we are going for refuge in terms of the practice of purifying our negativities, what it is, essentially, is, we have done something negative, right? We see that it is negative, and then we want to correct ourselves. So, in essence, it is to then reaffirm our commitment to practicing in accordance with the Dharma. Practicing in accordance with the Dharma, right? Our negative actions before were not in accordance with Dharma. Okay? Okay. So that's refuge, remedy, regret. Just seeing our negative actions as negative. We'll see how this plays out in the verses below, okay? But this actually is the most important. When we see how destructive our own actions are for ourselves and others, right? Then we'll seek all the rest of the remedy and the resolve. Resolve not to do it again. Remedy means some virtuous action to counteract the negative action that we've done. Okay? Refuge, regret, remedy, resolve. Okay? So now, here, Shantideva is also to kind of get that sense of urgency. This sense of regret, actually, how it's normally described in the traditional text is to imagine that you have gone out, well, I don't think they talk like this in the traditional text, but let's say you've gone out with two of your friends to dinner, right? You've all eaten the same thing. You're now in your Ola on the way home. Your friend, you've all eaten the same thing. Your friend next to you starts vomiting in the car, dies. Your second friend starts vomiting in the car, dies. Okay? What kind of mind are you going to have? Okay? So it comes up a lot, like, this whole thing, guilt versus regret. So at that time, there's no guilt like, oh, I'm such a bad person for eating that food. No. It's, I got to do something to get this poison out of my system. Right? Get me to the hospital. So the mind of regret is like that. It's not like, oh, poor me, I'm such a bad person. Right? But it's, I have to do something now before the fruits of that negative action that has already been done ripen. Okay? So to get that sense of urgency, Shantideva is going to then talk about death. Okay? So let's continue. So you got it? 4 pointed powers? This is in the limb of confession. With folded hands, and please recite and meditate along with us. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who possess the great compassion and reside in all directions, throughout beginningless cyclic existence, in this life and others, unknowingly, I committed transgressions and ordered them to be done by others. Okay, so, sorry. Here's an important point. When we develop regret for our negative actions, we want to be as all-encompassing as possible. Okay? So one, since beginningless cyclic existence, okay, in this life and others, okay, unknowingly. So here, now, in this life, maybe we've killed cockroaches and mosquitoes, so forth, but we haven't killed any human beings, right? But when we generate regret, since beginningless human, cyclic existence, we definitely have killed many human beings. Definitely. No problem. I mean, there's a problem, but, no problem to believe that. Okay? Right? So, have that thought, in this life, since beginningless time, right? Whether I remember it or not, doesn't matter. Every negative action that I've done, I regret. And we can just infer, right? We can just infer that, whatever it is, although we didn't do you fill in the blank in this life, at some point or another, we must have done it. And so, try to have a very expansive view of our negativities. And then the other thing that's important, right? I committed transgressions or ordered them to be done, right? So here in the karmic repercussions, if someone, not you, hires an assassin, or even you pay for an exterminator to come and rid your kitchen of cockroaches, right? What happens? The exterminator, let's say they've killed 50 cockroaches. They get the negative karma of having killed 50 cockroaches. You also get that. Okay? So whether you have done them yourself or ordered them done by others. Okay. So stanza 29. Overwhelmed by the deception of ignorance, I rejoiced in what was done. Okay? So now this is the third thing. On the positive sense, when we rejoice in others' virtue, it is said we get the same karmic benefit as having done it ourselves. But on the flip side, if we rejoice in the negative actions done by someone else, we get the negative repercussions. So, many years ago, when I was on retreat with Ramzo Rinpoche, and they had killed Saddam Hussein. Remember? I think it was like 2006. So that night Rinpoche was very clear. Don't be happy about it. Don't rejoice that they've killed him. Because you would get the same karmic repercussion as actually having killed them. Okay? Or sometimes we can also do this with our, say rivals. Yeah, there's a story in Tibet where there's kind of two monks, they're rivals, and then the one monk committed a transgression and was kind of reprimanded in the public community, and then the other person felt happy that the other person had committed negativities. And then one of the teachers with clairvoyance said, actually, you accumulated more heavy negative karma than the person who actually did it in the first place. Okay? So be a bit careful about that. But now, seeing these mistakes, from my heart I confess them to the Buddhas. whatever harmful acts of body, speech, and mind I have done in a disturbed mental state toward the three jewels of refuge, toward my parents, my spiritual masters, and others, all the grave wrongs done by me, through so thoroughly vile and polluted with an abundance of faults, I openly declare to the guides of the world. Okay. So it's also good to remember this, right? We have regret for the negative actions. We also can have regret for those negative states of mind that then lead us to doing those actions, right? But I may well perish before all my transgressions have been purified, so please protect me in such a way as will swiftly and surely free me from them. The untrustworthy Lord of Death waits not for things to be done or undone. Whether I am sick or healthy, this fleeting lifespan is unstable. Leaving all, I must depart alone, yet, through not having understood this, I committed various kinds of wrongdoing for the sake of my friends and foes. My foes will become nothing, my friends will become nothing, I too will become nothing, likewise, all will become nothing. Just like a dream experience, whatever things I enjoy will become a memory. Whatever has passed will not be seen again. Even within this brief life, many friends and foes have passed, but whatever unbearable wrongdoing I committed for them remains ahead of me. Thereby, through having not realized that I shall suddenly vanish, I committed so much wrong out of ignorance, lust, and hate. Remaining neither day nor night, life is always slipping by without never getting any longer. Why would death not come to one like me? While I am lying in my bed, although surrounded by friends and relatives, the feeling of life being severed will be experienced by me alone. When seized by the messengers of death, what benefit will my friends and relatives afford? By my merit alone shall protect me then, but upon that I have never relied. Protectors, I am so unconcerned, unaware of such terror as this. I accumulated a great deal of negative action for the sake of this transient life. Petrified as a person, today being led to a torture chamber, with a dry mouth and dreadful sunken eyes, his entire appearance is transfigured. What need to mention the tremendous despair when stricken with a disease of great panic, being clasped by the physical forms of the frightening messengers of death. Who can afford me real protection from this great horror? With terrified, bulging eyes agape, I shall search in every direction for refuge. Upon seeing no refuge anywhere, I shall become enveloped in gloom. If there should be no protection there, then what shall I be able to do? Therefore I now seek refuge in the protectors of the world, who strive to give shelter to all that lives, and with great strength eradicate all fear. Likewise, I purely seek refuge in the Dharma, which they have realized clears away the fears of self-existence, and also in the assemblies of Bodhisattvas. I, trembling with fear, offer myself to Samadhibhadra, and to Manjughosha also I make a gift of my body. To the protector Avalokiteshvara, who infallibly acts with compassion, I utter a mournful cry, please protect this miscreant. In my heart, I cry for, in my search for refuge, I cry from my heart for Akshagarva, Siddhagarva, and all the compassionate protectors. I seek refuge in Vajrapani, upon the sight of whom all harmful beings, such as the messengers of death, flee in terror in all directions. Previously, I transgressed your advice, but now, upon seeing this great fear, I go to you for refuge. By doing so, may this fear be swiftly cleared away. Okay, so let's just stop here for a second. So you know these Samattabhadra, Avalokiteshvara, Akshagarbha, Siddhigarbha, right? These are various bodhisattvas, okay? So this thought of refuge, you see, we understand our negative actions is negative. We understand that they will lead to suffering results in the future. We understand that we might die at any time. And if we have these negative imprints within our mental continuum not purified, they would have the potential to throw us into a bad rebirth in our next life, right? So it's actually a very terrifying situation. What do you think? Huh? Yes. So, get to that in a second. You see, this combination of adding the meditation on death and impermanence during the Four Opponent Powers, very, very effective to get that sense of urgency to our practice. Urgency. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you know, he's in Kopan Monastery in Nepal right now. Yeah, I think there's some live stream. You're watching? Many years ago, he very famously said, so this is a course where there's like maybe 300 some people who come now from all over the world. Very famously, many years ago, he starts, you know, gets on the teaching seat, throne, meditates, and says, if you know where you were going to be reborn, you wouldn't sleep. So, now, okay, there's a couple ways to interpret this, yeah, but in my opinion, right, I don't know if any of you are interpreting like this, that you'd be so afraid that you couldn't fall asleep. No, I don't think it's that. I think what it means is, you wouldn't sleep means you would stay up all night doing purification practice so that you could purify these negative karmas that are about to throw you into the lower realms of existence. Huh? Anita? Is there a third interpretation? So did any of you thought those two ways or what? I'm curious. What did you think? Huh?
I thought the first way.
The first way.
Wow, I mean, is it so bad? Would be reborn in this terrible. Yeah.
So is it so bad? Yes. Yes, it is so bad. It is so bad. Well, you know, you see, it's like this, right? You see in the sutras, yeah, the Buddha himself said, the beings who go from the higher rebirths to the lower rebirths are like the number of dust particles in the earth. On the earth. You know, dirt in the earth. It's a lot. Now, those that go from the higher rebirth to a higher rebirth is like that number of dust or, you know, dirt particles that can fit on a fingertip. Okay? So you get a sense of the proportion, the ratio. We just say, I don't know, I mean, let's estimate. The number of dust particles that can fit on your fingertip versus the earth, is it a 1 to 1 billion ratio? No way. A lot more. I mean, it's mind-boggling, right? So let's just say, 1 out of 1 trillion, like a 1 to 1 trillion ratio. Or let's even put it this way. Let's be very gracious in our interpretation. Let's just say it's 1 to 7 billion. Okay? That means on the earth right now, 7 billion people, one of them is going to get a good rebirth in the next life. So then you have to check your mind stream. How much virtue am I engaging in? How much non-virtue am I engaging in? And is my performance of virtue #1 in the world? Yeah, okay.
Talking about the constant rise in, in virtues. I mean, it could happen that a person falls from a higher level to a lower level in one world, and then goes up again in the next world. And is it possible that the person is still stuck in?
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's actually the nature of samsara, right? That we're continually going from high to low and so forth. But nonetheless, it is said that most beings are in the lower realms. Because even take like in this world, even 7 billion humans, right? But how many ants are there? How many little krill or these things in the oceans, right? So. And even worse, once we are in the, I don't know if he talks about it here, but once we are in the lower realms of existence, then it's very difficult to arise a virtuous thought. So therefore, Shantideva says in one part of the text, right, that, once I'm reborn there will be only, wrongdoing and no virtue. Therefore, I won't even hear the words higher rebirth for many eons, right? So the point, again, the urgency, we have to use this life, this opportunity now. Because very rare and uncertain, if we'll get one in the future, and even if we do, it might be a very, very, very long time from now. So, where was I? Oh yes, you wouldn't sleep. So that's what I thought. You wouldn't sleep because you would be frantically trying to, do as much purification as you can before you die. I'm scared now. What I wanted to say. So even if the Buddha is being a little bit poetic, right? Because you will see some. There's one very famous teacher, Choe Geshe, who then he traveled to the States, and a lot of people there, right? All this talk of hell realms. Because of the history with Christianity and so forth, the cynical view is that they're also taking like Santa Claus, right? Right. Your parents tell you be good, otherwise Santa won't give you presents, right? So Nietzsche and other people, they say this whole concept of God and punishing you in hell is just created by the ruling class to keep their subjects in line, right? It's a very simple view. So, in the same way, the Buddha is trying to scare us, saying no one's going to get a good rebirth in the future, right? As rare as dust particles on the fingertip. But, see, here, again, given the fact that we from our side want to live a wholesome life, want to live a virtuous life, and want to, not engage in non-virtue anymore, right? Then thinking in this way is actually very effective. Right? Yes or no?
Yeah, yes.
Right? So, this one teacher, Jigin Jung Rinpoche, he at one point for his own students in the US said, okay, no, don't worry. There's no such thing as the lower realms. Don't worry. But that was for a specific audience, who was getting a very negative feeling toward Buddhist texts saying, oh, they're just doing the same thing as, the fire and brimstone priests are doing. Fire and brimstone. They do this, they make a sermon. They say you're going to hell, right? In the church, right? They get you all afraid, and then, you go and you're like, oh, is there anything I can do to avoid going from hell? Going to hell. And they say, oh yes, well, we're building a new church. You can make a donation, and then get out of jail free card, right? Sorry, it's a cynical view. So those people who had that, to prevent them from having a similar cynical view toward Buddhism, then this teacher talks like that. Anyway, the point is, remember, always keep this in mind. The point of our Dharma practice is to transform our mind. Okay? And at the end of the day, there's so many different techniques that have been taught. We need to find something that works for you. So for some people, reflecting in this way, if I were to die today, I definitely would be reborn in the lower realms. Like Pabonka Rinpoche, he says, in Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand, we do all these Vajrayana practices where we do deity yoga, where we kind of meditate on emptiness, and then we imagine that we arise as a deity. We arise as Avalokiteshvara or Tara and all this, right? Very nice, very beautiful. So Pabonka Rinpoche says, actually it would be better for us, rather than to envision ourselves as a deity, to envision ourselves as a hell being. How? Then to think, oh, and in my mental continuum, I have countless karmic imprints that will make me take this type of rebirth today. Oh. So, for some, that can be very effective, more than, oh, now I'm Tara. Right? What do you think? But for others, maybe not. So we all have to kind of use our own discriminating wisdom about what works in our mind. For me, I think I'm, lower faculty, being, but that works, that has a lot of taste and flavor for me. To think I'm definitely going to be reborn as a, lower realm being. Unfortunately, I don't meditate on it enough. Otherwise, I wouldn't be still doing all the stuff that I'm doing. But when I do meditate on it, it's nice. There's some short burst of goodness. Okay? So where are we? Page 53? Sorry. Stanza 53. Page 16, stanza 53. Is that right? So you see, even after we go for refuge, it's not just like home free, right? We have to then change the way we behave, right? So here, previously I transgressed your advice, but now upon seeing this great fear, I go for you to refuge. By doing so, may this fear be swiftly cleared away. If I need to comply with the doctor's advice when frightened by a common illness, then how much more so when perpetually diseased by manifold agitation of desire and so forth. And if all the people living on the earth can be overcome by just one of these, and if no other medicine to cure them is to be found elsewhere in the universe, then the intention not to act in accordance with the advice of the all-knowing physician that can uproot every misery is extremely bewildered and worthy of scorn. If I need to be careful near a small ordinary precipice, then how much more so near the one of deep duration that drops for 1,000 miles. It is inappropriate to enjoy myself thinking that today alone I shall not die, for inevitably time will come when I shall become nothing. Who can grant me this fearlessness? How can I be surely free from this? If I shall inevitably become nothing, how can I relax and enjoy myself? What remains with me now from the terminated experience of the past, yet through my great attachment to them I have been going against my spiritual master's advice. Having departed from this life and from all my friends and relatives, if all alone I must go elsewhere, what is the use of making friends and enemies? How can I surely be freed from unwholesomeness, the source of misery? Continuously, day and night, I should consider only this. Whatever has been done by me through ignorance and wrongdoing, be it the breaking of a vow, or a deed by nature wrong, I humbly confess it all in the presence of the protectors, with folded hands, prostrating myself again and again, with my mind terrified by the misery to come. I beseech all the guides of the world to please accept my transgressions and wrongs, since these are not good. In the future I shall do them no more. Okay. So here we have this last stanza, the resolving not to do it again in the future. Okay. Some other notes, just so you know, right? What stanza 63? Whatever has been done by me through ignorance and not knowing, be it the breaking of a vow or a deed by nature wrong, Okay? So, these are the two types of negativity in general, right? Be it the breaking of a vow. Okay? So, we can have vows of individual liberation, like a monk's vows, Bodhisattva vows, and Vajrayana vows. Okay? So, for example, a monk to touch gold or silver with a mind of attachment is breaking a monastic vow. Okay? Right. But if you, who is not a monk or nun, you don't have that vow, for you to touch gold or silver, well, actually, with a mind of attachment, that's a bit different. Okay, eating afternoon, let's just say, okay? In general, eating afternoon is one of the monk's vows. But if you eat afternoon, it's not breaking a vow. So for the monk, it's a wrong action through the breaking of a vow. Okay? But a deed by nature wrong. Hello. So Shanti, you understand? They also say in the text, it's a deed wrong by proscription. Okay? That means only the people who have the vow against it commit a negativity. But killing, for example, whether you have a vow or not, killing, they say a natural misdeed. Okay? Now, I also have a vow against killing. So at that time, it's like, I'm committing a breaking of the vow as well as a natural misdeed. Okay? You understand those two? Yeah. Okay. Yikes. I wanted to do more explanation of this next one, but I'm going to do it very brief because I do want to make good on my claim, my aspiration to actually take the Bodhisattva vows, okay? So I'm going to get it a little bit quickly. So where are we? We're done with confession. What comes next?
Resolve.
No. In the 7 limb prayers. 7 limb prayer. First, prostration, offering, confession. Next.
Regret, no?
Rejoice.
Rejoice, sorry.
Yes. Okay. So, here. Gladly do I rejoice. Here, we're on chapter 3, first stanza. Gladly do I rejoice in the virtue that relieves the misery of all those in unfortunate states and gives happiness to the suffering. I rejoice in that gathering of virtue that is the cause for the Arhat's awakening. I rejoice in the definite freedom of embodied creatures from the miseries of cyclic existence. I rejoice in the awakening of the Buddhas, also in the spiritual levels of their children. And with gladness I rejoice in the ocean of virtue for developing an awakening mind that wishes all beings to be happy, as well as in the deeds that bring them benefit. With folded hands I beseech... Okay. So sorry. So these first 4 stanzas, that's the limb of rejoicing. Okay? Now, how you would do that, it just means a mind that is happy, hearing, seeing, or knowing that someone else, it can be you or someone else, has engaged in virtue. So I was saying this is an antidote to jealousy. Okay? So how this would work in practice on a daily basis, right? You know, we could be jealous. We see someone, I don't know, like in a big shiny new BMW. I don't know, and we're like, what, you know, and then we start to think all these bad things about them, right? So instead of being like jealous and have a negative mind, harboring toward them, to then think, oh, okay, this person is experiencing this good outcome because in the past they have practiced virtue. Great. In the future, may they again, you know, be able to practice virtue so that they can experience such beneficial effects. Okay? This is like day to day. In the context of doing a meditation, you can do just like this, right? So we rejoice. Why? Because rejoicing, you see, it's the cause of happiness and success in the future. We want all sentient beings to have happiness and success. Therefore, we want them to develop the causes for it. We want them to practice virtue. So when we see it, when we hear about it, we should be like, oh great, they're going to experience benefit in the future. Right? That's the essence. See? So we rejoice in the virtue. Why? It relieves the misery of all those in the unfortunate states and gives happiness to the suffering. So we want the suffering to be relieved and these beings to have happiness. Okay? Then you can be a bit more granular. That's the general case. Then who practices virtue? These arhats awakening. Right? This one is like the simple liberation from samsara for oneself alone. So all the virtue that was accumulated for those, you know, arhats, that causes the definite freedom from the miseries of cyclic existence. Great. So wonderful that all these beings, you know, have achieved liberation from samsara and never have to experience the samsaric suffering again. Okay? Then I rejoice in the awakening of the Buddhas. So the fully enlightened ones, wow, so amazing that they, you know, traverse the path, purify their minds completely, completed the collections of merit and transcendental wisdom, like this. And then also in the spiritual levels of their children. The children of the Buddhas is another word for the Bodhisattvas. So even these who have not fully traversed the path to enlightenment, but are still, on the path, have bodhicitta, so wonderful in all the virtue that they are doing. Okay? So, remember, on the negative side, when we rejoice in someone else doing non-virtue, we also accumulate non-virtue. When we rejoice in the virtue of others, we get a share of the virtue. And here, since it is said that, a bodhisattva, since their actions are being undertaken with bodhicitta, which wishes to free all sentient beings from suffering, I forget the exact math, but it's something like, it's like this, right? If we just do something without doing bodhicitta, without motivating with bodhicitta, right? We get some virtue, right? But the bodhisattva, it's as if their virtue is multiplied by all the sentient beings, because it's for them. It's for a much greater purpose. So, I forget the exact number, but it's something like the amount of virtue a bodhisattva can accumulate in one morning. It would take us something, I think like 13,000 years to do. Okay? That's one bodhisattva. So now, it is said that if you rejoice in the virtuous deeds of someone higher than you on the path, you only get a fraction of their virtue. Because if we rejoice in the Buddhas, right, and then we got all the merit of the Buddha, we'd all be Buddha, right? So you get a fraction. But nonetheless, even if it's a small fraction, it's a lot more than what we ourselves could do. Right? So then, that was just one bodhisattva. Would take us 13,000 years. Then you imagine, I rejoice in all the Buddhas, all the bodhisattvas. Amazing. Lama Tsongkhapa, he very much praises the practice of rejoicing as the quickest way to zoom yourself along the path to enlightenment with, least hardship. Now, I'll just say this, speaking of hardship, some of you might have been told by your guru to do some 100,000 prostrations. Yes? Have you heard of people like that? They ask their guru for the practices that will help purify their minds of negativities. Good idea, right? Ask Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Lama Zopa Rinpoche then replies to do some practices, let's say, 100,000 prostrations. Okay? Then one can, think, ooh, all that hardship. I'm just going to, when I go to Bodh Gaya next week, I'll see all the people around the Bodh Gaya stupa doing prostrations, and then just rejoice for them. And not break a sweat. In fact, I won't even go to the stupa. I'll just be sipping the tea in the Be Happy Cafe with the carrot cake and just think of all the people. Huh?
It happens.
I know it happens. So while that's true, okay, then there's the other people who, like in the prostration text, you see there's these multiplying mantras at the beginning. And you see recite certain mantras, and then one prostration you get the merit of 10 million prostrations. And then you recite that mantra, and then you do one prostration, and then you go back to Lama Zopa and said, oh, you only said 100,000. I've done the merit equivalent to 10 million. Wait, no, it doesn't work that way. You see, again, remember, right? My question to you, are you enlightened? No? Then you have to continue practicing. Right? Even those of you, I know some of you got that letter from Lama Zopa, right? It should be like a big kind of Do you feel this is a big burden on your head? Huh? No?
No, it's a huge blessing.
All right. Okay. Good. That's good. So you should feel that way, but you should also feel like I gotta do this, right? Okay. So that was rejoicing. Okay. Next, with folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all the directions to shine the lamp of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. This is the limb of requesting the Buddhas teach. Right? Shine the lamp of Dharma. He's being poetic. Means to teach. Okay? Light of Dharma. Just like a light would clear away darkness. He said, right? The light of Dharma. Misery's gloom. Bewildered in misery's gloom. Right? So, it's poetic. With folded hands, I beseech the conquerors who wish to pass away to please remain for countless eons and not to leave the world in darkness. Again, a lot can be said here, but a few things I want to say is, see, the teachers, the gurus, they don't teach unless they're requested to teach. Okay? And they're only going to remain in the world if they feel they're benefiting the world. So it was actually said that the Buddha, he passed away at 80 years old only because his attendant, Ananda, didn't request him to remain till the end of the eon. Okay? So these practices, in my opinion, after having read all these various kind of things, they're very, 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 very good to do whenever we meet our guru. Okay? And so, my boss, Shanti, hello, Shanti. I'll praise Shanti once. Just once. I have been saying this for some years now, and this is one thing that I think, Shanti, you've actually been listening to me. Right? One, that's good. Not that there's not more than one, but one thing she has is now, when she does meet Lama Zopa Rinpoche, she will request teachings, right? And you'll also request him to have a long life, remain to the end of samsara. You do that, right? Huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're giving Lama Zopa this statue, right?
Yeah.
And you say, please, remain until the end of samsara. Remain.
No, it's changed now. Be with us forever and teach us forever.
Okay, whatever it is. You get my point. Okay? It was very good.
You please be with us forever too.
Yes,
So I'll say this. You see, in general, Avan, that is very good. If there was a real teacher here,
You are.
no,
You are.
no, that'd be very good. In fact, you see, that story, oh man, we're out of time, but that story, when the Buddha was with Ananda, before the Buddha passed away, the Buddha made some hints that I've attained the Vajra body. In general, I could remain until the end of the eon. He said that. But it is said that Ananda was obscured by the Maras, so didn't make the request right at that time. Okay? So then, when I think about that, and then sometimes you'll hear this, right? Like the teacher then just alluding to the fact that, I'm getting old, I might not be here much more. I think, at that time, even if you interrupt the teacher and say, no, remain, live long, remain till the end of samsara, don't pass away, but whatever it is, the nice words, I think it's very good. I think so. What do you think?
Rinpoche also says to make requests. He says in the teaching.
In the middle of the teaching?
Yeah, he always emphasizes making requests is very important to the Guru.
No, in general, making requests to the Guru is important. I'm saying, if the Guru is teaching to their...
Once he did say.
Yeah, okay, good. Even if not, like let's say, you go to Bodh Gaya next week, and there's like 12,000 people, and you're like, 200 yards away from the Dalai Lama, and he says something like this, you can still, in your seat, offer a mandala, whatever. No problem. Okay. The omniscient mind can do that. Can hear your request, right? Okay. This is just my thought.
But I'm still requesting you, please don't do this.
About your okay.
Okay is a promise?
No, look, I'm still in samsara, right? Myself, I don't want to die.
No, I mean you're not going to die.
Oh, I am going to die. I've been born.
I mean don't leave
die.
CKSL, that's what I mean.
Oh, don't leave CKSL. Oh.
That's
Dying
another level.
That's another level. That's another level.
That's possessiveness.
No. Anyway, let's not talk about me. But let's not talk about me. I'm just going to talk in general, right? The causes for you to be, guided by perfectly qualified mind and virtuous friends is to, practice in accordance with their instructions. So this is in one of the benefits of relying on the spiritual friends. They even say, right, even if your teacher is, not a Buddha, if you, act as if they were a Buddha, then because of the cause of, congruency between cause and effect, that will create the cause for you to be guided by actual Buddhas, Manjushri and, Maitreya and so forth in the future. So, now, just, I'm talking in general. With me, it's you can put me aside, that's probably better. But, whatever it is, see, the instructions, the teachings you receive, right? If you're diligently, putting it into practice, making effort, then I know from my own side, then it feels very motivating to come, right? Oh, they're studying so well, right? Whereas other times, I want to pull out my hair. It's like, I've explained this 25 times. Is this microphone not working? I'm kind of joking. But, on a worldly level, right, you get it, right? You want, whoever's, let's just talk pure worldly, okay? Forget about Guru being a Buddha. Whoever would come to teach, whatever you guys are doing, you want to feel that the work that you're doing is having impact. So if you're a teacher, you want to see that the students are learning and integrating what you're saying to them, right? So that's what you have to do. Okay? Otherwise, okay, I'm not criticizing. This is the Dalai Lama's joke, right? This is the Dalai Lama's joke, where he says, you know, in the 7-limb prayer, we say, oh, I request the Buddhas, you know, to turn the wheel of Dharma. I request them to teach. Right? Oh, please teach, teach, teach. Oh, Buddhas, please teach. And the Dalai Lama says what? He says, we have all the teachings from, you know, 108 volumes of sutras, 215 volumes of, you know, commentaries by the Indian masters. Have you studied all that? Right? If not, then you're like, oh, teach us more, teach us more. You haven't even, you know, gone through what has been taught already. And then you're like, something else? It's like, you know, he jokes. He's like, what are you asking? Right?
Not sincere about it. This becomes
Anyway.
Can I ask a question?
Not right now. So, let's just continue. And this is now the culmination, right? Where are we in the 7-limb prayer?
Buddha to stay.
What was, or request?
Requesting the Buddha.
Yes. And then what's next? Dedication. So, stanza 7, right? Dedicating the mare. So here again, you see, okay, I knew I said that before. We dedicate the merit, we prevent it from getting destroyed by anger. So just as if we accumulate negative karma, if we apply the 4 point powers, that can be purified. On the flip side, if we develop virtue and we get angry, we can also destroy our virtue. In the same way that we can destroy, means purify, our non-virtue. You understand? So, thus, by the virtue collected, through all that I have done, may the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor of the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. May a rain of food and drink descend to clear away the pain of thirst and hunger. During the eon of famine, may I myself change into food and drink. Hold on one second. May I become an inexhaustible treasure for those who are poor and destitute. May I turn into all things they could need by being placed close beside them. Okay, so now from this stanza 11, you guys should know these stanzas. It is put in this practice called transforming a suffering life into happiness. Yeah? So these next verses here, very, very good to recite at the beginning of the day. Right when you wake up, to set your motivation for the day.
From 11?
Yeah. It's in a text, transforming a suffering life into happiness, right? So these stanzas in general, you know, they very much encapsulate the attitude of a bodhisattva. Without any sense of loss, I should give up my body and enjoyments, as well as my virtues of the 3 times, for the sake of benefiting all. By giving up all, sorrow is transcended, and my mind will realize the sorrowless state. It is best that I now give everything to all beings in the way that I shall at death. So, by the way, I said these stanzas are how a Bodhisattva, thinks. These stanzas are actually explained in a lot of detail in a book by Lama Zopa Rinpoche called The Bodhisattva Attitude, where he now is, for many years now, has been kind of teaching these as a way to set our motivation for the beginning of the day. And then there's a meditation that you can do to integrate this in your heart. Okay? 13. Having given this body up for the pleasure of all living beings by killing, abusing, and beating it, may they always do as they please. Although they may play with my body and make it a source of jest and reproach, because I have given it up to them, what is the use of holding it dear? Therefore I shall let them do anything to it that does not cause them any harm. And when anyone encounters me, may it never become meaningless for them. If in those who encounter me a fateful or angry thought arises, may that eternally become the source for fulfilling all their wishes. May all who say bad things to me or cause me harm or any other harm, and those who mock and insult me have the fortune to fully awaken. May I be a protector for those without one, and a guide for all travelers on the way. May I be a bridge, a boat, and a ship for all those who wish to cross the water. May I be an island for those who seek one, and a lamp for those desiring light. May I be a bed for all those who wish to rest, and a slave for all who want a slave. May I be a wishing jewel, a magic vase, powerful mantras, and a great medicine. May I be a wish-fulfilling tree and a cow of plenty for the world, just like the space and the great elements of the earth. May I always support the lives of boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the end of space. Okay, so just hold on. Now from 23 and 24, this is the actual taking of the Bodhisattva vows. Understand? So, yeah. So shall we do? Do people want to do? Let's do it.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm now turning back to the Lamrim channel. Okay? And so again, this describes a ritual where there is an actual master present. But in general, you don't have to have a master present. It is said that the Buddha Manjushri, when he first took the Bodhisattva vows, he did it not being in the presence of a master. So if you had a statue of the Buddha, you can imagine that you're taking first seeing, not just as a metal statue or whatever, but seeing it as the actual Buddha, and then thinking that you're taking the Bodhisattva vows from the actual Buddha. Okay? But even if you don't have a statue, then you could just have a nice card, a postcard, that's fine. But even if you don't have that, you don't even need it. Just visualize in the space in front that the Buddha is actually there. And then that you're taking the Bodhisattva vows from him. Okay? So here in this text it talks about, you then make prostrations to the Guru, blah, 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 blah. But we're not going to do that. Okay? So I'm going to skip that section. And it says, then, you know, the master would state the trainings already explained in the context of the teachings for a person of small capacity. So, although I'm not the master here, I did do that, right? All of those from practicing rebirth all the way to the faults of samsara and so forth. We've done that. Okay? Then next is amassing the collection of merit. And here it says, right? This is the 7-limb prayer. And so here, even in this text, it says that you can practice the 7 branches of worship following either the text of the prayer of Samattabhadra or engaging in the Bodhisattva Deeds. Okay? So, I had this planned, that we did it according to this text. Okay? So next, purifying your attitude. Since in his lamp for the path of enlightenment, a teacher says that you should first feel love in your heart, and then generate the spirit of enlightenment upon seeing suffering living beings, vividly bring to mind the objects and subjective aspects for love and compassion, as explained previously. So what this means, the object of bodhicitta or compassion is sentient beings. Okay? The subjective aspect is to think, you know, may they be free from suffering. Right? So the mind of compassion, object is sentient beings. Subjective aspect, the mind views sentient beings and then wishes that they are free from suffering. Okay? So actually, we can just refresh our sugarcane husk bodhicitta, right? So just let's take a moment here to think, right, about suffering sentient beings. So we can think about, well, the easier way, I guess, is we can do it in relation to the 7-point cause and effect instructions. So thinking how all sentient beings have been our mother. That they have treated us in immense kindness again and again and again. That we wish to repay their kindness. The only way to do that is to, give them the happiness that they don't have, and free them from the oceans of samsaric suffering. And furthermore, it's up to us individually. It's our own responsibility to do this. I myself, must free these sentient beings from suffering. But then you recall that in your current situation, in your current state, you're unable to do that. You still have faults, you still have not developed your qualities to their highest potential, and therefore you cannot lead beings in the best way to liberation and enlightenment. But then you recall the qualities of the Buddha. You think, if I were to attain the state of enlightenment, then I would be able to work for sentient beings in the best possible way. So then you think, yeah, that is what I must do. I must achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, no matter what it takes, no matter what I have to do, what I have to sacrifice. So then now with this mind of Bodhicitta, that mind, right, we all have generated a mind of Bodhicitta, contrived Bodhicitta. But now, visualizing in the space in front of us, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all the lineage gurus, we now will reaffirm, or for some of us, well, it might be the first time, but you can think we're affirming our commitment to practice in the Mahayana path. Okay, so it's good to okay. It's good to kneel. If you're really doing this, okay, if you've taken Bodhisattva vows before, then you can take again and again. You should take again and again. How it would normally work is, see, the first time you might take them from the Dalai Lama or a great master. Gives you a lot of force behind it. After you've taken them, you can then subsequently take them just in your own room with or without holy objects, right? Okay. If you haven't taken before, I don't know, you don't have to take them for real now, but you can just kind of have it as an aspiration for an aspiration. You understand? But since I think many of us have taken them for real before, we can, re-take them now for real. And so you get on, let me just read from this is from Lamrim. In front of the master, you should either kneel with your right knee on the ground or squat down on the balls of your feet. And after you join your hands respectfully, generate the spirit of enlightenment. Okay, so yeah, just a quick thing. With respect to how to proceed without a master, when there is no master, the ritual for developing the spirit of enlightenment for oneself is as follows. Imagining the Tathagata, means the Buddha, Shakyamuni, and all the Tathagatas of the 10 directions, then, we make the ritual offerings, obeisance, and so forth, and then go through the process of going for refuge and so forth as before, eliminating the word master and supplication to the master. Okay. So here, there is a more there is a more extensive version in Lamrim Chenmo, but we can do the abbreviated version in the Guide to a Bodhisattva's Way of Life. Okay? 23. We recite this 3 times, 23 and 24. Just as the previous Tathagatas gave birth to an awakening mind, and just as they successively dwell in the Bodhisattva practice, likewise for the sake of all that lives do I give birth to an awakening mind, and likewise I shall too, likewise shall I too, successively follow the practices. Just as the previous Tathagatas, just as the previous Sugatas gave birth to an awakening mind, and just as they successively dwelt in the Bodhisattva practices, likewise for the sake of all that lives do I give birth to an awakening mind, and likewise shall I too successively follow the practices, just as the previous Sugatas gave birth to an awakening mind, and just as they successively dwelt in the Bodhisattva practices. Likewise, for the sake of all that lives, do I give birth to an awakening mind, and likewise shall I too successively follow the practices. Okay? So, if you have already taken them before, you can think that now your Bodhisattva vows that have been degenerated before, they are restored. And if you haven't generated them before, then you can think that you have now generated them. But, yeah. Okay, so that's actually very important, you know. Yeah. Whenever you do take vows for the first time, at the end of the recitation, you should think that now you have the vows. Okay? Now, some of you, if it's your first day, then it's okay, right? But if you want to take it for real at some point in the future, always remember that advice. If you're taking it from a master, he or she will often snap the fingers, but at that snap, you think, now I have the vows. Okay? Cool. So now, 25. In order to further increase it from now on, those with discernment who have lucidly seized an awakening mind should highly praise it in the following manner. Today my life has borne fruit. Having well obtained this human existence, I've been born into the family of the Buddha, and now am one of Buddha's children. Thus whatever actions I do from now on must be in accord with the family. Never shall I disgrace or pollute this noble and unsullied race. Just like a blind man discovering a jewel in a heap of rubbish, likewise by some coincidence an awakening mind has been born within me. It is the supreme ambrosia that overcomes the sovereignty of death. It is the inexhaustible treasure that eliminates all poverty in the world. It is the supreme medicine that quells the world's disease. It is a tree that shelters all beings, wandering and tired on the path of conditioned existence. It is the universal bridge that leads to freedom from unhappy states of birth. It is the dawning moon of the mind that dispels the torment of disturbing conceptions. It is the great sun that finally removes the misty ignorance of the world. It is the quintessential butter from the churning of the milk of Dharma. For all those guests traveling on the path of conditioned existence who wish to experience the bounties of happiness, this will satisfy them with joy and actually place them in supreme bliss. Today, in the presence of all the protectors, I invite the world to be guests at a festival of temporary and ultimate delight. May gods, demigods, and all be joyful. Okay, so there's a little bit more that I wanted to do, but I suppose we can do it next time because we're out of time. But yeah, after you take the Bodhisattva vows, there are all those stanzas that we did afterwards. It's about, reflecting on the benefits of Bodhicitta, right? So, feeling very happy that you have the vows, so that this actually helps you from generating them in the future, right? And in the succession guru yoga, which some of you do, these next lines, 26 and 27, the stanzas 26 and 27, they're included in the succession guru yoga, right? You notice that, Anita?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, of course. Right? So now you have the Bodhisattva vows and you say, today my life is born fruit. Because you have the Bodhisattva vows, you're now one of the Buddhist children. Well, that means if you really are a Bodhisattva, you become Buddhist children, right? And now then, it's not just that you have the vows, but then you kind of commit yourself that whatever actions you now do must be in accord with the family. It means the Mahayana family, right? And you should never do anything to disgrace or pollute this noble and unsullied race. Okay? So even if we're not Bodhisattvas, again, we can act like one. Right? Why not? So, yeah. I said it once, but yeah. Don't let the fact that you're not a Bodhisattva prevent you from acting like you're a Bodhisattva. That's my final advice. You can put that on a t-shirt.
So yeah, maybe that's it.
For now? Yeah? What do you think?
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you. Thank you. I was really waiting to retake those vows from you. And my hands were so cold because I was so excited. And every time you asked me a question, my mind was there. So sorry, I just didn't get
It's okay.
that.
So, no, but Anita,
Oh.
you should be taking these vows now. I mean, you should be, in the context of 6th session Guru Yoga, you should be taking them, you should be
Yeah,
thinking.
that's what we do.
And then even when you do, you think, now, oh, I have a fresh set.
Yeah.
Because for the real, we're going to get into this later about the actual vows, what they are and how they're kept, how they're transgressed and all that. We'll have to do that next year, next eon. But one of the things is, there's 18 root and 46 branch vows. And some of them are very difficult, but as long as, even if you kind of degenerated one, if within 24 hours you think, oh, I shouldn't have done that, and then make a kind of commitment to not act that way in the future, it's not broken by the root. We'll talk about that later. So if you take these Bodhisattva vows morning and night, you can review them and then check, oh, have I acted in accordance with these? If you haven't, generate the 4 opponent powers. If you have, rejoice. Right. Then it gets very, how do you say, you build a lot of momentum, yeah, in the practice. Okay, so let's dedicate, all these beautiful dedications we had already, right? But if you had to just break it up, what I often like to say, there's 3 kind of main pillars of dedication, right? Of course, in the Mahayana context, we want to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, the most important, actually, is that all sentient beings quickly be free from all their suffering and achieve the state of enlightenment. Okay, so we dedicate like that, in general, right? But for sentient beings to achieve enlightenment, they need access to the Dharma teachings and to the teachers who teach the unmistaken path. Right? So we also dedicate for the long lives of the spiritual friends, particularly the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, yeah, and all their activities increase, and that they especially continue to teach us extensively. And then we also dedicate for the flourishing of the Dharma, and such that in any of the places where the Dharma had once spread, or having once spread and declined, or having never spread before, may, it flourish there, and means flourish in the hearts of the beings in that area, getting the true realization. Okay. So then, that's the three main ones, right? And my own guru, the late great Chidren Rinpoche, he said, actually, even if you just do, you don't have time, but you do one of those three, it's enough. Because it's like the three sides to a coin, right? Let's just say you only have one, right? And you just say, may the gurus have a long life and their activities be fulfilled. What are their activities? Teaching, promoting the Dharma. So just by that, then the Dharma will also flourish. And when the Dharma flourishes and the teachers teach, sentient beings will get enlightened. And, and vice versa. Any of the one encapsulates the other two. But yet, in our own dedications, it's helpful. You see here, there's a whole dedication chapter, many. So we can also elaborate. So the three pillars are what I explained. All sentient beings quickly free from suffering and attain enlightenment. Flourishing of the Dharma, long lives of spiritual friends. Then the fourth, right, is coming in, right, since the real cause for beings to attain full enlightenment is the mind of Bodhicitta, then we also dedicate for that mind of Bodhicitta to arise and increase in the minds of sentient beings. Then, of course, you will see many variations on dedication. So even that first one about dedicating for all sentient beings to be completely free from suffering and attain the state of enlightenment, sometimes you will see, may I, due to this merit, may I attain the state of enlightenment so that I may lead all sentient beings into that enlightened state. Also fine. Good. Okay? Then anything else you want to embellish, that there be no war, terrorist attack, natural disasters, famine, disease, these kinds of suffering, that can be pacified as well. Great. Then also dedicating for the beings who recently died, that they be born in the pure land of the Buddha, or at least achieve a precious human rebirth, meet with the Maya teachings, and attain enlightenment as quickly as possible. Also fine. The beings who are sick, not just that they be freed from their ailments, but that after they regain good health, that they make their lives meaningful by practicing Dharma, progressing along the path. Great. Yeah. So anyway, it's very good. There's a lot more that can be said. If you read the 10th chapter, the dedication chapter, you read the King of Prayers, you read all these other, you'll get some ideas, good ideas about how to dedicate. Okay? So, while I was talking, were you dedicating in your hearts? Were you? Okay, then good. Okay? So, that's it.